So, and the first of all, thank you very much for sharing the information that you guys have collected so far. I believe this exercise is really important to be conscious about the difference of each one of the elements. So if we go about through each one of the elements, the first one, guys, oh, wait a minute. The first element that we had, oh, what happened here? Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. The first element actually was the identity. Let me just put identity first here. Let me just put it over here, dude. You were like at the end, and identity was pretty much at the beginning, but it doesn't allow me. There you go. Identity. So the first element was identity, and it would be really cool perhaps if I change the color to green to those that I believe are absolutely right. So I will color those definitions that I approve. Let's say I will let them in green color, if that's okay with you. So this is also green. So identity, guys, has to do with how people perceive the company, or how people see the company, or how people understand the company based on what it does. But company is not just an actual company or business. It could also be a project. So for example, let's say that you are working with the schools, as I said, and you are giving some sort of consultancy service, and you're helping a certain school. The way they see you and the way they understand you, that is the identity. You see, so as they say here, it is a recognition of a particular company by end users, and the end users are the ones who use the product or the service that you are providing. So that has to do with the way they see you and the way they understand what you do. Okay, so that is identity. It's basically what you do and who you are, but it's not just what you do and who you are, but how people see you. So you create an identity for others to understand what you do. Okay, so it's not just about knowing what you do, but doing something and communicating that something effectively so others understand your service or your product. Okay, so I believe this is the best definition we've got on identity. It is the recognition of a particular company by end users, which implies that all the activities determine a company takes to create a unique identity with the goal of being recognized by the end users. That's as you said. So as you do all your activities, so the people, in this case, the end users, understand who you are, and they recognize you, and they say, this is you. So that is the identity. The second element was the problem, and we get several definitions, which I believe are really good. Let me see over here. I like this one. I would say I like this one. Why does it move like that? Look, it moves just like crazy. I'm just trying to organize everything, but for some reason, it won't let me. Dude, what the hell, right? Well, anyways, the problem here. Let me just leave those in black color. So problem, why we are going to create a product or project? Yes, we could put it like that, guys. The problem must be the why you are doing something. You see, in order to identify the problem that you want to tackle with your project or with your business, the best way to put it is why. You see, and I believe this is a very simple way to solve it. So I like this one. I would say problem is very good there. Then solution, let's put it over here. If that lets me put it over there. Jesus. This is a little bit too messy. Just sending stuff in all directions. So what the hell? Once again, I like to play with this, but anyway, so we said problem or solution. So let me see, where do we have a card with solution? So this one, to evaluate how flexible your core banking software is, and which that makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm gonna just delete this one. how flexible your core banking software is and which changes you may need to integrate in the future. No, that makes no sense. So I'm gonna delete that one. Our solution, do we have any other? Yes, I mean, this definition is okay, although it requires a little bit more of details. But yeah, the product is the solution. But the solution is not just the product. The solution is how your product or your service integrates with the problem and creates better conditions, let's say. But by now, we could say that solution has to do with that, with the product. So let's say that's acceptable. Then we had another one, which was the target markets. And this definition is really good, by the way, that you guys said. It is related to the public in general, the public who is going to enjoy the product. Yes, we could put it like that. I like that definition. I believe this one is good. But I don't know why this moves like crazy all the time. Jesus, look at that. Just trying to put the green cards in a single place. Then we have other competition. So you guys said the field we are going to unfold, the population to which, well, this one is also right. Let me see, competition. Show who you are competing with and why the benefits your product provides to customers are better than those. This is close. This is close. It's not the best option we've got, but I believe it makes sense at least. But this one, basically it refers to the companies or people who we are going to be competing with. This is the best definition of competition. So I'll leave it there. I like it. This one says regarding target market. The target market is a central focus within a marketing plan that determines other essential factors for the product, such as distribution, price, promotion, and efforts. I'm gonna leave it in a different color. I'm gonna leave it in this orange niche color, which means that the definition is right, but it's not specific enough in this case. I mean, it's not exactly what we were looking for. It's a little bit too specific. That's my point. This definition of competition refers a little bit more to where we are going to be working, right? And I believe it's also, as I said, it's good, but it could be better. So let's say those two definitions, the ones which are in orange, are acceptable, but they are not exactly what we were looking for, but they are good, let's say. Then we had, apart from the competition, we had cash flow. How our product's going to be sold, that is right, but there was another one. It is the entry and exit of money. That is the best definition we have. I mean, that is exactly what cash flow is, by the way. But in this case, for this purpose, what we mean by cash flow is how you are going to be selling your products and how are you going to be, earning financial resources with this. Oh my God, this is just impossible to organize. Forget about it. The cash flow projection shows the cash that is anticipated to be generated or expended over a chosen period of time. This is also a very good definition. Also, although for this purpose, it's a little bit too complex, let's say, but that's a good definition. Remember, those cards which are in orange are not wrong, but the definitions are perhaps too specific and they don't serve the purpose of what we are doing in this moment. So in general terms, we could say that cash flow refers to how the products are going to be sold, how they are going to be sold, and how we are going to obtain a benefit, or in this case, money with that. You see, that's what it refers to. Then we have marketing activities. This is partially true because it has to do with, although I don't know if we can actually say publicity. It sounds a little bit it sounds weird to me, but it seems like some people can use it like that. Let me just double check because I have never seen this word. That's why, okay, publicity, we can leave it like that. That's an alternative to marketing. Good. So yes, it has to do with how you tell the world about your product, right? But human resources are not there. So that's why I leave it in orange. I think we don't have more of those. Then we have expenses, the inversions that are necessary to the production and sale of the product. Yeah. So basically it's what you need or the resources that you need in order to create your product. So it's the materials and everything you need for creating the product. So this definition is also good. Milestones have to do with objectives and goals, but in general terms, guys, remember that milestones are the important moments. It's not just objectives and goals, but important moments in the development of anything. But this definition it's good for this purpose. And we are missing terms and key roles, I believe. So guys, little parenthesis here, little parenthesis here. You gotta be very, very extremely careful with instructions, and especially as you guys are going to be, you know, presenting in the near future international exams, and also as the exams for this subject, remember, are based on the structure of international exams. So if I ask you, for instance, I said at the beginning, create a card with the name of the concept and then the definition. And if you guys did this, this is okay because you're sharing the information, but this is not what I ask you to do. You see, this is not the instruction. So in the case of an international exam, let's say the instruction says, choose one of the concepts and provide a definition, just the way I did it. And if you do this, this would be wrong, okay? This would be wrong just because of the instructions. So we have to be very careful with that as well, okay? So it's not like I'm ignoring the information and that's it, but that was not the instruction. So we have to also pay attention to that. Same thing happens, for example, I mean, we can be very flexible. And if I say, for example, export this homework in a PDF file and upload it to Moodle, and then you send an email, for example. I'm not telling you to send an email. And I could just not grade that, you see? But of course, that's not something I'm doing. That's something I can change. But in the case of international exams, there is no alternative. So it is not important just to do the exercise, but also to do exactly the exercise exactly the way is expected given the instructions. Okay, guys. So we're gonna go over this business plan as we work on our own projects. And as we do that, we are going to understand these concepts even better. But based on the definitions we have here in green, I believe most of you sort of understand them. So before we conclude this part, guys, I'd like to know if you have any additional question, if there's any comment about the exercise itself or about the format that you would like me perhaps to help you with. Questions, comments, doubts, guys?
Yes, teacher, I have a question
Uh-huh.
about if it's well, there is a difference between if I say input and income.
Oh, thank you very much for asking that question. That's also a very good question, because we said at the beginning outputs and outcomes, right? And we said like these are different because outputs are tangible. Outputs are things that you can actually see, but the outcomes refer to the transformations that happen with those outputs. Let's say in the case of input and income, they are very different as well. And input is also something tangible. So for example, if I ask you, let's say I ask you to design a lesson plan, for example. So the homework is to design a lesson plan. In one of your inputs for the lesson plan is it's a learning guide that explains how to do that, you see? So the input is something that you use to create something else. That's a way we can see input from this context. So for example, I ask you, please do a lesson plan to teach children. And I will give you these inputs. First, a learning guide. Second, an example of a learning plan, of a lesson plan. And a video in which I'm I explain how to do the exercise, for instance. Those would be your inputs. You see, in that case, what you receive in order to do something else, or what you, what you receive or what you take in order to do another activity or in order to create something. Those could be the inputs in this context, okay? We are talking about the context of projects and business in general terms, but especially projects. So that's what inputs are, what you receive or what you or what you take in order to create a solution or in order to create a product. For example, income is very different as well, because income is used a lot in the financial field. So in this context that we are working on with the business plans and the projects and everything, income would refer specifically to the financial resources or the money that you receive by any purpose, let's say. So income refers specifically to finance in this context. So for instance, the salary I receive for working in the university, that's part of my income, you see? So for instance, in my case, in this moment, I've got essentially 2 incomes, and each one of those refer to a contract, you see? So it's the money that I receive. It's the money that enters to my account, let's say. So I don't know if this explanation is clear enough, Lina.
Yes, it's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, but in this context of projects and everything, out of those 2 words, the most important is input. That is very important, because every time you do any homework actually, or anything for the university, you've got inputs, you see? So if you have to write an essay, for instance, your input could be the books that you read or videos you watched. Those are inputs that you had and that were important to do that assignment. So out of those 2 words, the most important here, I believe, is input. Okay. And in that case, for example, let me just show you an example. So let's say I say, you have a homework, and the homework is to design a lesson plan to teach children. That's the homework, right? So the homework is to design a lesson plan for children, to teach children, right? The input are, or the inputs are, a video in which I explain how to do that, and a learning guide, a document that explains you how to do that. So those are the materials that you use for the homework. Those are the inputs. What would be the output? The output would be the lesson plan. You see, the homework, that would be the output. And the outcome would be, or the outcomes would be, all those transformations or those learnings that you acquire. So now that you did this lesson plan, now you understand the importance of having a lesson plan. You understand the stages for creating a lesson, you see? So we get the inputs, which is the information that you use at the beginning to do the homework. Then you have the output, which is the product that you created, which is the lesson plan. And the outcomes, which are those internal, let's say, transformations or things that you learn doing the homework. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, teacher.
There you go. So we're gonna just conclude this part, guys. We're going to conclude this part, and as I said, we are going to continue with this as we go all little by little with the project. It is very important to understand these elements and these stages and everything, because in the future, when you are working in a school or in any sort of institution, projects are all over the place. And one of the problems that we have is that we don't know exactly what a project is, and we don't know how to exactly work on them. And hopefully this is going to help you a little bit. So guys, now we're gonna make a huge transition, and we're gonna start working on the second lesson of the book. So let me just open a Word file here, because I need to share something with you. Let me just put it really big here. So I'm writing a word that I want to share with you. Let me just put it like that. There you go. I love it. Okay, so let me just share my screen with you. So this is the word that I want to share with you guys. And I believe this word connects a lot with what we were saying before, right? So we said that we are going to create this business plan, but when we are creating a business plan or when we are starting a business, the very first thing we need to spot is a problem, right? But we spot that problem, and then we do all this ideation process, this process of creating something in order to create a solution. And hopefully, as we identify a problem and we provide a solution, well, that produces change. You see, that produces change. So at the end of the day, with your ideas, with your products, what you're looking for is change, right? But change can be understood from lots of different perspectives, right? So there are some changes that we can motivate, like with a business idea, you can make a change yourselves. But there are also changes that don't depend only on you, right? There are some changes that don't depend on you. And as we were discussing with the activities that we have done before, sometimes those changes depend on the times that we are living and the situations through that the world is going over. So I would like you to think about you know the situation with the pandemic since the last year, and I would like you to think about the 3 top changes that you have experienced since the pandemic started. You see, the 3 changes that you say, these are the biggest changes I have experienced since the pandemic started. Okay, that's what I'd like you to think of. So I'll give you 2 minutes so you guys do this top 3 changes that you have experienced since the pandemic started. And then let me see if we can do that just. But think about those 3 changes considering this question. So let me just put them over here so you know exactly what I'd like you guys to do. Of course, the first thing would be what was the change, right? That would be the very first question you would take into account there. So let's think about that. What was the change first? The second thing I'd like you to think of is how did it happen? So we know, you know, what the pandemic is and how the pandemic motivated those changes and everything. But talking from a more personal perspective, how did it happen? And then how easily did you adapt to it? These are the questions, guys, that I'd like you to reflect upon regarding change. There you go. Regarding change. So these are the 3 questions. No, I don't like how it looks. Okay, guys, that's it. So let's think about the 3 top changes that you have experienced since the pandemic started. I'll put it over here also in case you want to have that reference. Top 3 changes since the pandemic. Since the pandemic started. Okay, so those are the top 3 changes that you want to identify there. But at the same time, think about these 3 questions as a way to articulate your answers. Okay, so I'll give you around 5 minutes to prepare these ideas, and then we're gonna go to the breakout rooms, and you guys are going to share that with some of your classmates. You're gonna have a little conversation on this. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, teacher, it's clear.
There you go. So let's take 5 minutes to prepare this. I'll be here, and if you need me to help you with that, just let me know, and I'll give you a hand. Remember, we are just taking 5 minutes to think of those top 3 changes, considering these 3 questions that we have here. Okay, That's essentially what we're gonna do. And I would say most of us experience something very similar, but I would like to give you the chance just to express that. So I don't know who would like to share their ideas on this top 3 changes. You could change only one big change that you guys have experienced since pretty much the last year. Who would like to say something, guys? Who would like to share their, because I wouldn't like just to choose you like that. Makes no sense here.
Teacher, I want to say something.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you. Please.
So, well, teacher, at the beginning of the year, I mean, so well, I was working. I started working like as a teacher, but just on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with kids, so that was normal. I went to the university into the week, and when the pandemic started, so well, I thought that I lost my job. So I keep working. Well, was something crazy. I can say, well, I agree with my parent, with my partner, that was talking about the virtuality. That is like something crazy because we weren't like used to work in in that field, the virtuality. It was kind of crazy. And once I received a call that I was about to teach. So I thought that I was about to teach kids. So I said, okay. But when I start working all the week with all the groups. So I felt like crazy because I didn't know anything about how to teach. So
yeah.
So that was kind of crazy, like to get, but with the time, that with the time, like he started like getting used to, and now it's easier. I can say, well, I have like 1.5 years of experience,
Well,
and I can say that is the best thing first, and that is something cool. And now, well, I'm not saying that I'm really good, but because, well, of course I'm learning, I'm still learning, but what I have I have succeed so far, it's like perfect for me. So that is like my dramatically change.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It's like, as a summary, we could say that at the beginning, of course, that's very overwhelming. It's very hard to cope with all those changes, and you feel like you can't do that. Look at this verb, guys, this adjective, overwhelming. So the situation is overwhelming because you say, wow, this is too much, right? But throughout time, you end up saying something like that, as Felipe said. You see that you have changed and that you have learned, and that's what really matters at the end. that transformation process. So there are there are outcomes like those, like you do now know how to teach in such conditions. So yeah, I think that's one of the key changes that we have experienced. Okay, we've got David also, David Esteban. So please, Mr.
Hello, teacher.
Hello.
Well, I think that one of the most important change that I had in this like quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was like I used to be all the time at the university, and when the university sent like the message that we are going to be in quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
I I think that I thought that it was like something that we didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
And I also the first days when we were in quarantine, uh,
Mm-hmm.
there were like 14 or 12 days that we didn't
Mm-hmm.
have class, and when we
I know.
back to class, or I mm, I I remember that that days were very difficult because 14 days without class,
Mm-hmm.
there were like well, I forgot a lot of things that we see in a presential mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the change of presentiality to virtuality, I think that it was difficult, but we're trying to adapt to the situation, and I hope to come back as soon as possible to the university. But I think
Absolutely
that
true. Well, yeah, I didn't remember this that part when we had nothing to do during a couple of weeks. That was very shocking. That was very weird. I also share that.
yes, and
Mhm.
also as I talked with my partner in this time, in these days, I wasn't nothing to do, so I decided to spend my time playing parches all
Oh
all
yeah, I
the day.
remember that. Yeah, I remember that game was so popular in during those days. There you go. Those were very crazy changes that we experienced back then. Thank you, David, for sharing that with us and refreshing my memory on those days. And now, Miguel, we're gonna finish with Miguel, and then we'll call the attendance, and we are good to go. So, Miguel, please.
Yeah. I want to talk because I want to say that for me, the most difficult, and I think that for us is the contact with the people, with our partners, with
Mhm.
the friends, because I think that it's really difficult have the same the good communication with the friends that we have in presential classes. And I think that the experience of the university is not only inside the classroom,
Mhm.
inside the class, is also the experience of meet people and talk with those people, sorry, with the friends, and different things that you can do in the university that you it's really difficult to in virtual classes in through WhatsApp or through different apps that you can communicate. And yeah, basically is that. And for me, it was really difficult have a partner, have a friend, or a study, or I don't know, teacher repasar
Review. Review.
review the topics. Or yeah, for me it's really difficult to the plans through WhatsApp or the video calls. Or yeah, I
Absolutely.
think that's the
Mhm.
most difficult. And I really like to go back to the university, but I know that the difficulties that exist for for that
Well,
for that
yes, that
thing.
I totally share that with you, Miguel, and it's like that part, that dimension, let's say, of the social contact, let's say, as you describe it somehow at the beginning, there are some, of course, there were some changes, but those changes also affect the way we perceive those spaces and those, you know, situations still. So for example, I think that it's also happening to you. Sometimes, like, there are some friends of mine who say, like, we should hang around, have some coffee, whatever. And I still don't feel very comfortable going out with people that I don't live. I mean, I live alone. Let's start by that. But like the people I normally have contact with, it's a very reduced circle. So sometimes I feel very nervous when I have to be with others. I mean, not very nervous, but I don't feel very comfortable, at least. You see, so that's something that also has created some changes in our heads regarding how we feel having contact with others, and that's something we have to work on in the coming months, perhaps. And also, as you guys said, talking about I just shared with you these two expressions here. When we want to refer to the classes in the university, we have to say on-site classes or face-to-face classes, because presential is not a word in English in this case. So on-site classes, face-to-face classes. So yeah, we experienced huge changes. We had to use WhatsApp and so on. But actually, if we, you know, investigate a little bit what happened with teachers and with schools all around the country, believe me, their conditions were way worse, you see, because at least, I mean, you have your classes on Zoom and stuff like that, and perhaps we don't like it that much. But let's think about school teachers in rural areas. That is even more complex, you see, because they didn't even have Zoom. They would only use WhatsApp. They would send just learning guides, and children would have to work on their homes by themselves. You know, that was even worse. So yeah, those are some really big changes that we have experienced. And now, well, you know, we have to prepare to overcome those changes. So guys, I'm gonna stop the recording now, and just to call the attendance and perhaps have some final remarks. Let's see.